Hey guys, it's Dan the Medic. Today, I'm here in my kitchen and I'm making myself something to eat. So I figure while the stuff is being made, I'll tell you my thoughts about tipping in Las Vegas. All right, let's get started. Is it boiling? Is it boiling? Almost boiling, guys. So, now first we must understand there's the difference between a tip and a gift, okay? So a lot of people be like, yeah, I tipped them, $1, right? So was the dollar given a tip or a gift? That's a different thing, right? Tips are actually wages that you give to people for doing things for you, right? So the way tipping here in America works is that, let's say it's a restaurant. The restaurant does not pay the employee a full salary because it is a tipped position, right? The restaurant expects that the tipping that comes from customers would pay for the salary, right? That's the way it works, right? So in the restaurant, there are people who should be tipped and people who should not be tipped, right? The people who should not be tipped should be the people that are getting an actual salary, not that reduced, cut off stuff that waiters and bartenders and other tipped position gets. So that's what a tip is. You're paying them to work for you, right? However short of a time it is. Now, the thing is, people misunderstand, and like ever since the big thing of 5 years ago, like people be like, oh, I'm gonna give extra money. I'm gonna tip them, right? Look, those are not tips, those are gifts, right? You're giving them something because out of the kindness of your heart, whereas a tip is expected. You kind of have to do it. They're not going to call the cops on you if you don't leave a tip, but you're supposed to. Otherwise, they can't make a living. They gotta get, the tip money, right? So when you go to McDonald's, right, they don't have a tip jar for you, right? Because it's a retail transaction. You're buying something and the employee is being paid a salary, like a real salary. You go to Starbucks, you got the barista, right? There's a tip jar, right? Some people be like, oh, I got a tip. But you gotta understand, those people are full salaried people. They get paid by the hour. Like they're not like waiters and waitresses and stuff, They're actually fully paid positions, right? And whatever you shove into that little box is a gift, right? If you feel like that this is a wonderful job, out of the kindness of your heart, you want to give them $1 or $2, go ahead. Some people will give $100. Go ahead, It's that you can give whatever you want, So now, today's main topic. Okay, remember I am cooking something. Today's main topic is buffet tipping, right? Oh my goodness, guys, let me get a book out. Firstly, what I'm about to say is from my own mind, right? I come to my conclusions based on my experiences of decades of eating at buffets, right? Having had waitress girlfriends, I dated a bartender chick, whatever, and I talk and I kind of understand how restaurants work, right? So if you go to a normal full service sit down restaurant, right? You're expected to give 15% tip based on adequate service, right? And it's adjustable depending on how much you make them work or how much they didn't come through for you, right? It's adjustable. Some people say, oh, I give 20%. But percentages don't really don't really mean anything, right? Because a percent of $100 meal is different than a percent of a $10 meal. You know what I mean? Right? So there's a lot that goes with it, right? But for 15% of the price of a meal, right? And I say a normal meal in America costs $30. $30. Okay, it is written. Okay, you can find meals cheaper than that. You can find meals more expensive than that. But you know, $30 is about what people should pay to eat a meal, right? So a waitress or waiter would get 15% of $30, right? And that would be $4.50. Correct me if my math is wrong. The water's boiling, guys. Let me turn it down a little lower so I can have more time to talk to you. All right. So, what do you get for $4.50? You get, right, them to come to you and take your order. Take order. Right? Upon which they will bring you the food. Bring food. Upon which they will bring you beverage. Bring beverage. Upon which they will check up on you at least once throughout the meal. You can always flag them down, right? So one checkup, right? They will bring you your bill, all right? They will bring you your change. Then you get up and you leave, and then they reset the table. Reset the table. All right? So you're paying $4.50 for them to do all that. Now, here comes the thing, right? A lot of people are thinking, when I go to a buffet, right? You know, I'm serving myself, so I'm not going to leave a tip. Or they go to a buffet and then they don't know how tipping works, and they're like, hey, you know, it's a place I'm going to pay money to eat, therefore I'm leaving 20%, right? Both cases are wrong. You can give whatever you want as a gift, but as it comes to tipping, right, you got to figure this out. So, right, all these services that you get, right, is included in the $4.50, no matter who does it, right? You got waiter, right? You got bartender, if there is one, the bartender, right? You got food runner, if there is one, and then you got busser. All right, so these people work together, right? Now, in restaurants that features bartender, food runner, and bussers, right? And then depending on how much of the percent of the sale belongs to the bartending side, right? The waiter takes your tip of $4.50 and then tips out the other people at the end of the shift, right? So I have spoken to many waiters. They told me that they will tip out the busser 2%. 2% off sales. Okay? Remember, they're getting 15% as their tip, and then out of that 15%, 2% goes to the busser, which is the person that cleans up, maybe even comes around with the water, you know, fills up your water or something, okay? And that'll be like 13% him, 2% busser. If there's more people to tip out, then he'll simply tip them out, right? But don't feel bad. Oh, my waiter's tipping out people, you know? Because if he's not tipping them out, then they don't exist and the waiter got to do it all. You know, there's some really small restaurants, just like one person does all the positions. Okay, so they'll be like, all right, so I'm going to go to a buffet. The buffet costs $50, right? $50, right? And let's say this is the type of buffet that they bring you the drinks and then you get your own food. There's no ordering. There's no bringing you your food. There's no bringing you the bill. There's no bringing you your change, right? Because you walk up to the cashier, you pay for it first. Then you go in and then you help yourself. Self-serve. So if that's the case, how much should you tip? Some people are saying like, well, self-service, I'm gonna leave a couple of bucks, $2, you know? $2, really? You know, what exactly are you doing, right? So the fair way to tip in a buffet is to tip according to what things are given to you, right? So at a buffet, you get the busser to clear the table, right? Busser, clear table, right? And then the drink lady brings you a drink, cocktail lady or drink lady, whatever, right? So basically that's it. You're your own waiter, you're your own food runner, right? So let's say you give 2% to the busser, right? Because you're tipping out. So if you're the waiter, you're tipping out the busser 2%, right? And the cocktail lady brings you your drink, right? So it's like $1 a drink, right? So $1 a drink. Right? Because $1 a drink comes out to about, 15% of a drink that is like $6.50, right? If you go, hey, I'm gonna run a tab, you drink drinks, right? And then you have like 10 drinks, that's $65, right? And then at $6.50 a piece, and then you write them 15% because they did an adequate job. They put the drink in front of you, well, very good, So then it comes out to $10. So like $1 a drink, okay? 15%. Obviously, if the drink is going to be complicated, remember, you can always give gifts, okay? Now, so you're thinking like, all right, so you have a meal, and then you ate one plate, and then you had one drink, so you owe them 2% and $1 per drink, right? But that's not what happens at a buffet. At a buffet, you go up and you get a second plate. You go up and you get your third plate. You get your fourth plate. The other day, I was at the Bacchanal buffet, had 8 plates, guys. 8 plates. Now, 2% for the busser at a regular restaurant where you eat your stuff and they clear your plates. Like, let's say you had, you order a bunch of stuff. At the end of the meal, they come to clean everything out, right? At a fancier place, they may clear out a plate or two in between. Oh, you done with appetizer? Okay, boom, appetizer, right? Then that's gone. They bring you your entree. They clear your table for entree, right? And then they come and then they give you dessert and then they clear that, right? So we gotta be fair, right? Appetizer, entree, dessert, right? So obviously this comes from a regular restaurant for 2% tip out. And you gotta add in all the other entrees that you got. So at the Bacchanal buffet, I had no appetizer, but I did have 8 entrees. No, one of them was a dessert. So 7 plates plus 1 dessert, so that's 8 times they busted the table, All right? So 8 times 2% is 16%. 16%, guys, right? And $1 a drink. So I had a water, a Diet Coke, and orange juice plus $3. All right? So 16% of $80 is what the buffet cost, would be $14.78, right? And then plus $3, that's $17.78. That would be a fair tip. You see that, right? You see the math, right? Because hey, you're paying people to work, you know, and they're gonna come and clean up your stuff 8 times. You know, they deserve, you know, what they actually work for. So, something for you to think about. All right, my food should be ready. Let me know in the comments below. Well, you're probably thinking like, oh, might as well just give them 15% to begin with. You know, it really depends, you know, it's not about percentage. It really is about how much you eat and how much you put them through. You know, like, okay, look, I'll tell you. There's going to be some fancy Nancy, you know, that would ask for every little thing from a waiter, you know? You know, they should tip more than a person that would just get it, you know, eat it and leave. You know, it's like whatever you put them through, you gotta pay them, right? So, oh, can I please box this up to go? Thank you. That's more tip. Oh yeah, can you please make it split checks? That's more tip. Oh, can you please, what else? Portion it this way, or oh, can you please time it so that this comes first and that comes second, and then in between those two, that thing comes, and come on, you gotta pay, you know? All right, I think I'm losing my chain of thought. I'm hungry. Have a good one.